Good morning. Welcome to Sunrise Stroll and Chat here at the Sea of Galilee in Magdala. Welcome, Erlene. You're one of the first always. There, the sun is just out to greet you. Welcome, everybody. We're already rolling here. The sun is coming up. You know, it gets up earlier every day until we hit the summer solstice. So we have 3 weeks and then 3 more weeks afterwards. So the coming 6 weeks will be the earliest sunrise strolls and chat in the entire year. But it's worth getting up early. Of course, for people in California, it's a great advantage because you're getting to see it not so late at night, especially for people in the East Coast if they're watching, of the Americas. Welcome, Hong Kong. Did you have lunch yet? And East Malaysia is with us as usual. I wonder how many people watch from East Malaysia. I wonder if they're telling their neighbors. How about that, Awid? We had all this cloud this morning. I was tempted to start a bit earlier, but it's not every day this time of the year we get so much cloud, usually. But it's like a canvas, and the heavenly artist can do this beautiful work, put on this light and sound show every morning with the birds and the clouds. So here we are. Thank you all for coming and joining us from Oceanside, California. Well, we don't have an ocean here, we have a lake, but it's pretty important. It's the Sea of Galilee. And you're joining us at Sunrise, Stroll and Chat here at Magdala. And we take in beauty from many sides. The beauty that God is combining here with all of you, bringing in your eyes and your heart and your soul to respond to these gifts that God gives us. And that's beautiful. That response is beautiful. It's like this reflection in the water of the light from heaven. And I see Michigan is here as well, and Texas. Oh, I hear when you keep pumping those hearts there, you are actually raising the rankings in on the logarithms of Facebook, and this is getting exposure to more people as a result. So they tell me that pumping the hearts is more important than the likes. Would keep up the likes as well, that's helpful. Has to be. We got to spread this good news, you know. Many people would like this encouragement. Franklin, Tennessee, and Florida. God bless you all. And obviously, everybody around the world is watching all the trouble in the United States, so we'll have that intention in our prayers, along with all the coronavirus problems. And we ask for a new birth in our world, we ask for hope. Great hope. There is beauty awaiting us. There is goodness awaiting us. There is life awaiting us. And this is what our world needs. We don't need to give in to despair. We don't need to give in to destruction. It's very hard. There's very tough situations. We need to work together. Jesus suffered the anger and the wrath and the outrage, the innocent one. And he gave us such hope. And that hope has inspired generations. And actually that's the substance of the first reading today. It's from the second letter of Peter. So now we're starting into a more regular reading. Before we were going with the feast days and the readings were selected for them. We had a regular reading the Easter season of the Acts of the Apostles, because that's the book of the Easter season, also of some chapters in John. So today we're in the 9th week of ordinary time. Ordinary in the liturgy means that it's not special. Ordinary and special, right? So special is Advent, preparing for Christmas. Christmas, celebrating the birth of Christ. Lent, preparing for Holy Week and Easter. And Easter, celebrating the resurrection. And then Pentecost, that concludes the Easter period. From the beginning of Lent to Pentecost is approximately 3 full months. So now we're in ordinary time, and ordinary time, actually its focus is, to understand that liturgical focus, is to contemplate Christ in the entirety of his person, rather than in one specific thing, his birth, or his passion and death, or his resurrection, and so on. That's the meaning of the word ordinary. And there are about 32, 33 weeks of ordinary time, depending on the calendar a little bit, and how the seasons are measured off, especially for Lent and Easter, because they move according to the moon. And we're now in week 9 of ordinary time, just so you understand that. And the ordinary time started after the Christmas season ended, and there are usually 6, 7, 8 weeks of it, and there are usually a few days of one of those weeks lost then in the jump into the beginning of a new week after Pentecost Sunday. So that's where we are. Tuesday of the 9th week of ordinary time, and we're reading according to that fixed program of readings. We're in the second letter of Peter, and we're in chapter 3, because presumably I didn't check it out now, but if it was week 8, we'd have been reading before that. So, and there are 2 cycles, the even-numbered years and the odd-numbered years. So we're obviously 2020 in the even-numbered years. So the letter starts like this: Beloved. That's a nice way to start a letter, isn't it? Beloved. And that's why we write down everywhere, dear Mike, dear Mom, dear Grandpa, dear Grandma, dear Auntie Joan. We start off, Beloved. Wait for and hasten the coming of the day of God. That's an interesting thing, that we could hasten the coming of the day of God. And we could slow it down by our unresponsiveness. To be responsive to such extraordinary gifts, and also to such extraordinary challenges. Right now there's a tremendous burden of responsiveness on everybody. All the leaders involved in all of these protests, the leaders, the political leaders and all the different levels, the church leaders, the faith leaders. There are some people being inspired surely with great ideas of how to make real improvements, not just the appearance of improvements. And so there's this great burden on them. And so we pray at this moment, I would suggest it, pray in your hearts that all the people who are being given the grace of solution, of light for the darkness, of a bridge to bring the opposite sides together, that people just don't stay on one side, that they meet, that they encounter, that they listen to each other, that they address the wrongs and the injustices, that they bring about solutions that can make real change and not just dampen conflict, but to really go to the root of the problems. So we can hasten the coming of the day of the Lord, because of which the heavens will be dissolved in flames. Wow, that's quite a vision. And that's a very interesting thought, that the world we live in is not permanent forever the way it is. And the elements melted by fire. And we have seen a lot of burning. But according to his promise, we await new heavens and a new earth. You see, the new creation is the whole theme of the New Testament. It's a Jewish community around Jesus, and they're very conscious of the original creation. They're very conscious of the damage done, and they're waiting for a new creation. So this is really all about hope, people. We await new heavens and a new earth. And what's the characteristic? In which righteousness dwells. Now that is very, very beautiful. This is our hope and our expectation. That means we don't have to resign to the fact that it has to stay the way it is. Things can be changed. And it's going to be changed. And there's the sun rising every morning to give us light to make sure we can make some of those changes. And we can't change it all in 1 second. Wow, look at those birds. I hope you saw them. And we have to be patient. Therefore, beloved, since you await these things, be eager to be found without spot or blemish. That means don't take advantage of this kind of in-between time to do ridiculous things, to soil yourself, to lower your dignity, even though you're under great pressure. Be eager to be found without spot or blemish before him at peace, and consider the patience of our Lord as salvation. So we have to wait. It's not all happening in the second. Our prayer isn't immediately answered on the spot. But the patience of our Lord is a path of salvation for us. That means our patience is also where we're being honed and we're being saved through this patience. It's interesting, Christ died to save us, but we have a huge part in receiving the salvation. And that patience is an expression of love. And now I invite you for a little stroll. And we'll do that with the response verse of Psalm 90. In every age, O Lord, you have been our refuge. And Psalm 90 is a long time before Jesus. And there you have the chosen people being through so many difficulties. And they already have that experience. In every age, O Lord, you have been our refuge. And how many pandemics has humanity been through since? And challenges and wars and troubles and upheavals. In every age, O Lord, you have been our refuge. Let's walk, people. This is not so glamorous right here, but it's still beautiful. Look at this. The clouds here in this little corner. If you remember there 2 months ago, this is where the catfish were always jumping. But I haven't heard them at all now. I think that was mating season or something. Tiberius. That's the new Tiberius. Whoa, there we got them. The birds that came right into our nose almost. They have the same routine every day. It's amazing. The exact same tracks they follow. Just try and figure out how to film them. In every age, O Lord, you have been our refuge. That's really strong. Oh, I want to go back here for you, because I like it this way, when it's right in here behind the trees. forgot to point out one thing that I wanted to do. The hills were very clear this morning, very crisp, but they're already getting a little hazier. And actually, I can see Mount Hermon right now, but I don't have a good spot for you to see it yet. Oops. A little yawn there by Soter. Do you hear the cows? I just love that because I was raised on a farm and the cows up here in Mount Arbel calling out for their calves. You know, Jesus said in the gospel, when you give up your farm and your cows and your tractors and your brothers and sisters, you get 100-fold. And I just can't complain. I think he kept his deal with me at least. I see Mount Hermon, but our camera won't pick it up, people. Sorry about that. It's right up there in the very center of the screen. I'll try and open it up for you a little bit. Yeah, you can. It's right there. Let me put it down a second just to get this to maximum focus. It is at maximum focus already. So I'll just put it in the very center of the screen. There's Mount Hermon right there. You can see that little grey type of loaf there in the center of the screen, just above the hill of the Mount of Beatitudes. There's the Mount of Beatitudes. Oops, there are birds again. There, right there. That's Mount Hermon there in the very center of the screen. Now the sun has gone into hiding when we weren't looking. Let's see how the color is doing here on this window. If you're getting dizzy, tell me to slow down in the movements. And that's a reflection there, people, that tree. And let me put it down here just a second. Don't be careful how you sit down. There you go. Okay, well the sun has gone into hiding, so it's no longer that bright. Oh, watch this guy. And the trees are covering him up. That light is so gorgeous. So now we're doing special flight effects for you on the sunrise stroll and chat, people. Special sunrise flight effects, you know. So here we got a little bit more light again on this window. And this tree is being reflected, and these trees are being reflected here on the window there. This is Ducan Altum. Go out into the deep. Oh, there's our guy, but he's hiding behind the trees on me. So let's come over here and enjoy this spot. Maybe I'll go a little higher up this morning. Better this way. Oh, let's get this guy here. Those were unplanned special effects people. It's interesting how people want fun. So we're waiting for the sun behind the clouds, and it will be coming through. So waiting in hope. It's a small little hope this morning compared to the big hope we have for peace, for reconciliation. And sometimes there are troublemakers, but troublemakers also can bring out the best. And in the gospel we have that situation this morning. We have people very unsettled by Jesus. Let me catch this guy for you again, because he's coming close here this time. And they're trying to put pressure on Jesus, set him up to fail. And that happens. It's amazing how many people have that kind of a will to upset people, to test them, to tease them. You know, I think of with my little brother, my sisters, especially my brother. You know, he was 3.5 years younger, so, you know, he couldn't do much punching me, but I could tease him, and his punching wasn't really very effective for me. So we can have those moments when we are not building the other. We can be trying to undermine them. So there are some Pharisees and Herodians, and that's interesting because they're really not two friendly groups among themselves. But when you have a common, let's say, enemy, a common person that you don't agree with, then you team up. You see it in politics all the time. See it in families maybe. And things can get rough. And they came to Jesus, you know, with all this seriousness and propriety, you know. Teacher, we know that you are a truthful man. A little bit of praise, you know, flattery. And that you are not concerned with anyone's opinion. A very important quality. You do not regard a person's status. Another beautiful quality. But teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. You know, how marvelous. So now you set up Jesus like this on this big pedestal, which you didn't need because he was the incarnate Word. And so they come in with this question: is it lawful to pay the census tax to Caesar or not? And so these Herodians are actually the ones in sync with the Romans, because if they're Herodians, they're with Herod, and Herod is a puppet king, really, very much dependent on Rome's authority. So in a certain sense, they're really politically very aligned with Rome. Contrary to the zealots who want Rome out, and they're ready to do anything, to murder, to plunder, to create sedition. And they're the ones that eventually will rise up there in the rebellion in Caesarea Maritima. It's also going to be the end of Magdala here. And it's going to be the destruction of the temple. And the Herodians are on the other side, they're on the Roman side. And yet they're asking this question: is it lawful to pay census tax to Caesar or not? And obviously the people are very uneasy. They don't like the oppression of the Romans. Who would? Who wants oppression? Who wants another people coming in and telling you what you need to do and don't give you your due autonomy and right? And you're conquered and overcome by others. So they're setting up Jesus in a real big trap. If he speaks out against Caesar, then it's very easy. He can be taken out by the Romans, and the dirty work is done by somebody else. And if he doesn't align with the people, then he's alienating the people, because they don't want the taxation from Rome. That's not bringing them much good, any good. You know, the whole, what happened in the United States, taxation without representation. So, Jesus is in a fix. But sometimes pressure brings out the best in us. And here's a piece of wisdom that he gave us at this moment that's absolutely off the charts and that has impacted society ever since. Knowing their hypocrisy. They paint all this incredible lineup of virtues, but they're really being disruptive inside. They're trying to trap and to destroy. And he says to them, why are you testing me? Bring me a denarius, a coin, to look at. They brought one to him, and he said to them, whose image and inscription is this? They replied, Caesar's. So Jesus said to them, repay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. And the gospel line is so wonderful in this little gospel of Mark chapter 12. It says, they were utterly amazed at him. And I invite you people, right now, dear friends, to be utterly amazed at the mind of the Word incarnate. Through him everything was made, including this brilliant sun, including the materials with the human genius that also came through his creation, that put a camera together that allows you, through a Wi-Fi system, where you're sitting in East Malaysia to California, from Mexico to Canada, from South Africa to Finland, Denmark, Ireland, and you can see all of this. The amazing creation, the amazing mind of God. And when that becomes incarnate, the wisdom, blessed are the peacemakers. How wise. How, not just wise, how beautiful. What our world needs today. Blessed are the peacemakers. What splendor. Hey people, I'm tempted to bring you in a spot I haven't walked in before. It's very uneven, but I have a little idea. You just open up your heart to the Lord for all these graces and ponder them. I'm going to go through a little bit of rough ground here. But I want to do something else for you. Oh, actually there are a bunch of flowers here. We'll have to come back tomorrow with a little more time. But look at this, people, here. Oh, this is going to work, I think. I love this palm tree, this style of branch here with the sun. It's rough ground here, so you're being moved around a little. People, be patient with me. It's going to be off kilter. People, thank you for joining us today. God bless you from the Sea of Galilee, where the good news was proclaimed in abundance from the first time to the present time. May you be blessed. And may you be a blessing for others. See you later, alligators.